You know, the gnomes, the elves, the woodland spirits. Well, they're not really fantasy, although humanizing the entities I'm about to tell you about, frankly, is a rather ludicrous operation that stems, as always, from lack of sobriety in the face of the mystery that surrounds us, which produces the attempt to bring everything back to what we know. From this, plus from the ever-present sense of self-importance that makes us humanize anything, even stones, if we can. Whatever. Anyway, aside from that, trees, all plants, but trees in particular, have these mobile units that they release and send around. I mean, plants are much more mobile at the level of awareness than it may seem to us. Forests are full of these things, but not only forests, because these mobile units of plants move, especially those of trees, and the bigger the trees, the more powerful and capable these mobile units are. In fact, pulling down the forests is really a bad idea, because the consequences in the long run will be really unpredictable. But that's the way the human ape is. Anyway, these mobile units are not only in the forests, they are everywhere on our planet. Mobile units are always breaking loose. However, it is mainly at the moment of the transition at twilight, in the rift between worlds, that this happens. The whole plant world that dominates the planet, which is the dominant form of awareness in our world, operates this transition at the moment of twilight, at the same time as the twilight. So there's like a wave that continuously passes over the earth, operating this change. And it is especially at that time that these moving units are released. Then, during the night, of course, a lot of things happen. And this is one of the reasons why forests, natural places, in short, change so much at night compared to daytime. And actually not only the natural places do. However, the plant world operates this kind of transition at twilight, and that makes them change their own operation of time. There is also a way, and warriors do it, to latch onto this transition and to follow it. I technically explain this operation in detail within the online course. But here it would be impossible because it requires a whole series of preconditions that you can't really include in a video. Those who will sign up should know that quite late in the course, because this is something that requires this series of preconditions. You will also get to operate the transition along with the plant world, which is one of the most interesting things that there can be. It's comparable to the nagual's blow or the interaction with allies. It's better than power plants, much more disciplined, because we follow, in this case, the tree's ability to control the transition, which is much higher than ours on average. Now, in this transition, a lot of these mobile units are released, and they are actually somewhat similar to the emissions of the worlds of the inorganic beings that we commonly call allies. They're not the same thing, however. Let's say they are comparable in the plant world to what the inorganic beings do with their moving units, but it is obvious to the energetic perception that these are very different entities. So this video also serves to invite you to pay attention to what is happening at twilight around you in relation to the plant world. To do that clearly, you have to take yourself out of yourself. And here we return a little to the point I made in another video, that gazing is out there. Perception and awareness for the Toltecs come from without. And so if we are really extended in that moment, we can grasp what is really going on around us without necessarily turning it into something that we think we know. This change in plant consciousness happens in that moment, which conditions planetary consciousness. And this is already a passageway, an opening on the possibility of perceiving the moving units of plants, which, by the way, we also encounter in dreaming because they are frequenters of the dreamlands of the second attention. It is these cores of plant awareness that frequent the second attention, and therefore we encounter them in dreaming. You don't just meet inorganic beings there, you meet a lot of things. And very much you meet the mobile units of shrubs. They are very fast and great travelers of positions in the second attention, in what we call second attention in short. For them, this difference doesn't exist. They have another point of view which is really not mentally understandable for us. What is really interesting is that their point of view is experiential. We can realize what it is, but it's really strange, and yet it's actually what warriors come to when the practice of dreaming becomes something else from dreaming. When the term dreaming no longer makes sense, it becomes a shift into different time modes. In these different time modes, we also find the moving units of plants. But of course, potentially, we can also encounter them very, very much here in our time mode. Of course, if we have reworked the time mode a little bit, if it's not exactly the one we normally use. We need, in short, to modulate the precise aptitude of the time mode to perceive the moving units of trees and other plants. But it happens. It has happened to many people. This is where many stories and legends come from. This is one of the sources, one of the experiences of human beings that also led to the construction of certain interpretations and then stories, myths, narratives, and humanization of things that should not be humanized because they become nice but very distorted stories.